Welcome to the IAB UK Podcast.
Hello from the IAB, I'm James Chandler, and welcome to YouTube Festival Spotlight, a 3-part episode podcast series run in collaboration with Google, sharing a behind-the-scenes look at YouTube Festival, spotlighting top brands on YouTube. Over the course of the next 3 episodes, I'll be joined by some of the most senior marketers in the UK and members of the YouTube team to get into some of the most effective and innovative collaborations run on the platform. In today's episode, we're diving deep into the beauty of best practice, how a YouTube first summer campaign earned sizzling results for Boots. To break it all down, we have 2 amazing guests. Peter Markey, CMO of Boots, and Jacqui Owens, Director of Lifestyle Retail at Google. Why don't we start there then, Pete? Tell us a bit about Boots Save Summers. We're going to talk about the campaign planning and the creative, but why don't we start, tell us about the objectives of the campaign.
So Boots Save Summer was our big summer campaign. It's the 4th one I've worked on since joining Boots. Summer's a massively important moment for us. So if you're going to win as a retailer, particularly in our space, you have to win at 2 key moments, Christmas and summer. Summer is all about the essentials for going away or having a staycation. It's things like sun cream, hay fever tablets and the rest. But summer can be a little bit unpredictable, can't it? Particularly in the UK. It could be glorious sunshine or a little bit on the damp side. So the idea that Boots are there to save summer, that whatever your summer is, however unpredictable it is, you can trust Boots, was at the heart of the campaign. And we had to drive very strong awareness, consideration, but importantly, sales growth. When you've had 3 amazing summers and you're up for your 4th one, the plan was, can we do it all again? And that was the objective.
And you talked about unpredictability there. How do you design the ads with the idea in mind that it's going to be something that's going to work on television, but also something that's going to work on something like mobile for YouTube as well?
It's really important, isn't it? I think now with creative that you think beyond a TV spot. And it's something definitely with our agency WPP we've worked really hard on. Massive thanks to the team at YouTube because they worked with us and WPP to design the entire campaign from the start with best practice in how to build, design, create assets. Right from the storyboards we tested through the end film, they were built thinking about YouTube and the best practice from YouTube as well. So there are 4 key principles that YouTube bring to bear, which is the ABCD of creating great work, which is always easy to remember that one, hopefully. The A is attention, the B is branding, C connection, and D direction. And actually what that work does is say, are you establishing right from the get-go with your assets, who you are, what your message is, and what you want consumers to take away from that? So we deliberately designed the work with that best practice in mind. So if you look at the key film and how we've edited that for YouTube, there's a very key branding moment. There's a young girl with a Boots bag. And the joke being she's brought the wrong Boots bag. So the family think they're hiking a mountain and they're not because they've brought the wrong bag. It's got all the sun cream and other essentials in, but not the hiking boots. So that's established earlier on this Boots, brings some humour in, and importantly ends on a resolution that has our products at the heart of the asset. And that fits really well with YouTube best practice, but also means we could edit it in a way that highlights those moments even more strongly. So yes, it works for TV, but importantly works brilliantly in YouTube and how we design it. This was the first time we've worked with YouTube in such an in-depth way. We've had a great partnership for years, but to start from the beginning and say, how do we make this with channels like YouTube in mind was quite a revelation for the team, and has done as well. We've had a very strong summer, I think, on the back of that, and a lot of that has come from the strength of the partnership with YouTube.
There's still a lot of emphasis on television. Often it is the starting point for creativity. Are you seeing that changing, Pete? Is there different starting points that might not be television, that could be platform specific or device, whatever it might be?
It's definitely shifting. I've seen it shift in my time at Boots over the last 4 years. I still think there's a little way to go. We all love making films and assets. I think that the mental shift for agencies and clients is to go, it's a film, not a TV ad, and that film has many applications. Then the mindset shifts to go, oh God, okay, wow, actually I need to think about it differently. Cinema's in our mix, for example. Is it cinematic enough? YouTube is in the mix, a key part of the mix. Is it going to work there? So it's a core film, but is it going to work more broadly? And that's definitely really switched and fired our agency on really to go, okay, the challenge is a film that has a breadth of applications. How do we make it work in its deepest, broadest sense? But I still think there's a way to go. We all get, I get very excited about making what I call technically TV ads. So I've had to shift myself into gear to go, we are making films. and those films might appear in millions of variants. Isn't that exciting?
Yeah.
And yes, we'll end up probably with a TV ad, but it's not always where you start.
Yeah.
And also, I think not everyone's got the budgets every time to make a TV ad. We've done quite a lot of work in health through this year where we haven't put stuff on TV. We put it straight onto platforms like YouTube. So actually thinking, I might have a set budget that may mean I go directly into one route only. How am I designing for that too?
Yeah.
So it's definitely a shift. I think it's budget. I think it's the need to make assets work a lot harder, and especially in retail. We're trying to drive that immediate consideration and demand. You've got to make sure what you're doing works specifically in each channel, unique as it is.
Yeah. Jacqui, let's talk about how Boots and YouTube have worked together on this one. I think initially it came from the fact that YouTube funded an MMM here. Explain to us what MMM means for the uninitiated.
Sure. So MMM meaning media mix modelling. So it's how advertisers will look at the ROI that's driven across various different channels and look to optimise accordingly. So in this particular example for the Boots summer campaign, we actually funded a MMM deep dive. And so what essentially that is, it's another layer on top, another layer of analysis that we conducted to really be able to look at the specific channels, tactics and formats that drive sales the most effectively for Boots.
Tell me a bit more about some of the key insights that you'd have teased out as well, Jacqui.
Sure. So there was three main insights that came out of being able to do the deep dive together, and a huge collaborative effort across a variety of teams of Essence Media, WPP, Ubiquity, ourselves, and certainly the Beats Media team who were sponsoring the project. And the first being that really uncovering that YouTube was one of the strongest platforms for Boots and the amount of headroom that we had available for us to be able to go after as a result. And that how complementary it worked as part of another AV format and AV channel. Secondly, the key finding was that within YouTube, CTV, so connected screens, drove the highest ROI in terms of performance. And finally, for scalability to really be achieved, we needed an ecosystem of assets to really leverage all of the different YouTube surfaces.
Yeah, you mentioned CTV there. How do you set yourself up for success to really get the maximum leverage out of the big screen?
Sure. So across CTV, where we've seen that work the strongest is being able to upweight across a lot of sponsorships, but also across YouTube Select. And that is really a peak placement format, which really enables a much higher share across the CTV screen format.
Yeah, and you've got a bunch of, you talked about some of the stakeholders here. How do you get them all around the same sort of metaphorical table, and how do you make it work? There's a bunch of sessions that you ran, a bunch of workshops. Tell us about those.
Definitely. It was the fundamental part, I'd say, to the campaign success, and how early the team collaborated really early on to bring together all of those key partners. So what we did do, because every partner has a varying different level of education across YouTube, it was really important that we got everyone on the same page quite early on. So what we did following on from the MMM deep dive was that we ran a couple of other projects and kind of sessions together, one being an immersion day and the second being what we called an ROI accelerator.
There is a real value in getting all of these people around the table in the same room and trying to do it. From that very initial idea, Pete, anything that surprised you along the way, or did you think, you came in with something and thought it was going to be this, but through the workshop and what you've done, it became something different? What changed along the way?
First thing I'd say is I think this approach is quite unique to find a media owner like Google, like YouTube, wanting to lean in and work with a brand like ours in this way from the ground up. And that was refreshing, and it's been a delight to work with the team, because when you start with that common goal of we're doing well and we're winning, but how do we get even better? What a fantastic challenge.
Yeah.
And everyone was aligned behind the goal of this has to be the biggest summer ever. How do we get all the learnings out of what we've gone, plough that back in and have an incredible summer and incredible results?
Yeah.
So when you've got that, it's a winning formula. So not huge shocks. I think it was more, for me, those how easy those insights were to activate is probably the bit that I didn't expect to be that difficult, like rocket science. But you go, golly, actually, establishing branding up front, a meaningful role of the characters, connection with the brand and the offer. I mean, things you go, that should be obvious, but sometimes those things can be missing an asset. So I think like the ABCD formulation, how that would help us design the creative, how we use things like connected TV alongside YouTube. So it was just a helpful collaborative process, I think, how we established and worked that up. So the bit, I think, for me that was surprising is, it was simpler than I thought. The result was always good. The collaboration was I felt quite forthcoming. Once people got in the groove of there's a common goal, the burning platform is have an amazing summer, we were on our way. And it set what's great, I think, for me and the team, a template of how we want to work going forwards with YouTube, with other media owners to go, how do we lean in together and create the best work that drives the best results? And everyone wants that, but often you don't end up there. So that's got to be the goal.
I completely agree. And yes, there's some time taken up front developing what does that right framework look like for Boots, but it's not something that's needed then on every campaign. So I think being able to take a few steps back on what we did around measurement to really align on the right formats, really going deep in terms of the data that we had available to us. But I think then being able to do something like an immersion day is not something we need to do at the start of every campaign, but really important to really level set.
Talk about the immersion day, but they feel like two very distinct sessions. How is the ROI Accelerator a different session? What's that doing?
Yeah, sure. No, great question. The Accelerator is very much more around how do we bring the excitement and education together to bring everyone on the same page in terms of the role that YouTube plays. So very much ensuring that three key things from our side that came out of that specifically with Boots was being able to really ensure that everyone was familiar with the content that brings 98% of the UK population of adults to YouTube every day on an average of 62 minutes, what works best across the different formats and devices, and how to measure success. And so then looking at how the ROI Accelerator came together, that was very much about designing as a forum to share not only what we learnt from the MMM deep dive, but looking back over the past 12 months of an analysis that we did of Boots creative and media plans. How do we bring into those learnings to be able to put forward the best possible campaign approach for summer?
There's almost so much more to it, looking at all the historical stuff. Do you think you could ever got to the point you got to without all of this, without the MMM work, without the immersion day, without the RO Accelerator? I mean, they're sort of big, hefty things.
Well, I think what I loved with what Jacqui and the team brought is this lovely mix of art and science. And I think you need that to a degree because you're, I guess, relearning. I mean, it's interesting as marketers, you learn certain ingrained behaviours, don't you, about how campaigns are built and developed. What I love with the immersion day is you're relearning how to apply your skill and what to do and what matters with an amazing channel like YouTube today. So the team are upskilled. The team, exactly as Jacqui said, now know what to do next time. So we don't need to reapply all those learnings. But you're backing up with great data that says, and if you do it, here's what will happen to your performance. So you've got the science, and I love that mix. When you can bring that together and go, I know I'm going to do this with the creative, but I can tell from the data what it's going to do and what it's going to drive and how it's going to affect my performance, creates that imperative towards creative excellence, drive sales. We know it. But having data and immersion sessions like this one with YouTube was powerful. It helped us really unlock some magic.
And Boots were already certainly leveraging a lot of the best practice across YouTube. This was more then around, okay, that's working well. What are the couple of other areas that we can uncover? So, for example, we were able to look at ensuring creatives were more thoughtfully branded across the ad, but also ensuring that that viewers were directed to a specific call to action.
Yeah. It feels like there's a bit of a journey here, Pete. You've sort of moved away from this one hero asset through to this ecosystem of lots of different assets around it. We talked about how well that's worked. Any challenges around doing it that way?
It's just the new learned behaviour, I think, because we're like a machine. I mean, Boots is a lovely organism. I mean, we've got a really caring bunch of people, as are the team at YouTube. But you get in a rhythm, don't you? You work in a certain way. And we do a number, and we have a spring campaign as well as some. We've got spring, we've got Christmas, we have a value campaign, we have a health campaign. We're in a rhythm all year round. We're delivering campaign assets and activity. So to take a step back and say, how do we reimagine and rediscover and relearn this was a really important key moment for us. So now we've done that, we can then move forwards. I think it's sort of the rally call for any marketing team in the UK, isn't it? Is how do you just constantly keep learning as media channels are evolving and changing consumer needs and viewing patterns. You've got to keep up with that. And if you don't, you'll fall behind and be less competitive. And it's certainly a rally call I've put within my own marketing and media team is to constantly be at the forefront of innovation. I want media media owners, and they do it brilliantly through YouTube, through Google, come and bring the latest innovation to us, the latest insights, data, creativity, because that's what we want to do. Yeah. I want our competitors to be reading about what we're doing on with media owners in Campaign Magazine, not the other way around. So I want to be the front of the queue for innovation. And this partnership with YouTube's been amazing for that. The team are always bringing us new ideas, new innovations, new insights, best practice, because that's how we're going to keep winning. Yeah. And we need to keep winning. It really matters.
It's a full funnel campaign, has to be by very nature. Tell us about how you get that balance right between that, what traditionally been the top of funnel, the brand building bit, and perhaps the more activation led bit at the bottom. Was that a thought as you went through this process? How are you going to balance that?
Yeah, we do a very clear way of making that work. I think the bit that helps us is there's nothing we do, I'd say, is what I call pure brand. So we don't do, I'm not knocking if brands do this, but we don't do a sort of a look at us, we're Boots, and we've been around a long time. We had our 175th birthday this year, and we consciously did not do anything like that. Right. I didn't want to do a let's look back and feel nostalgic about this brand. We always show the products and what we do in all our activity. Our brand purpose is to be with you for life. So we need to show that, not just talk about it. So in all our work, say summer, for example, the products are on show. The family have the wrong bag, but you see what's in the bag. You see the assets they've taken. Christmas, which I can't really talk about, but it's coming soon, again has products in it. Surprise, surprise. We've just launched a beauty campaign that has products front and center as well. So it always has a degree of responsiveness because it's about the brand and our purpose, but we're showing you what we do that's to drive that demand. When I walked into Boots, so many people would say to me, oh, you've joined good old Boots. To the point where it used to frustrate me slightly because I kept going, well, it's more than good old Boots. So we coined this phrase to move from good old Boots to wow Boots. So every asset we do, including the work with YouTube in summer this year, was all about creating a wow Boots moment. So every asset needs to be responsive to the point where you see it and you go, wow Boots. I don't want any asset to be recessive for people to go, good old Boots. Because good old Boots you could walk past. Wow Boots you need today. Yeah. So that's been at the heart of what we do. So it hasn't been that challenging because that's a shift over the last 3.5 years. But it's a constant reminder in everything we do, including the brilliant work the team of YouTube helped us with here to put wow Boots front and center. I need to give you a moment to say why you need Boots today. The things we've got that are unmissable to save your summer at the heart of our campaign and more is what they've helped us with. So it's been fantastic.
That distinction's so good. Are there other insights, Jacqui, do you think, that maybe aren't totally applicable to Boots that could be slightly more broad and more general?
I mean, reach and frequency, I think, is absolutely applicable. Two other areas which I would suggest are around ensuring that the visuals are optimized for the mobile device viewing and tailored to a skippable environment. Yeah. So, for example, using square, horizontal, or vertical formats. And the real importance of being able to reinforce your message with audio and text, because 95% of videos on YouTube are played with sound on. Oh, wow. So being really intentional on a call to action to drive a specific and ideally measurable objective.
Yeah, that's powerful, isn't it, Jacqui? And for me with screens, not all screens are created equal. So you've got the situation where agencies might be designing something with one screen in mind, like a TV screen, but actually it's quite different now. If you're watching something on a mobile device 100%. Or a tablet or in your laptop, it needs to be designed for that. And also, do you want it sound on or sound off? So the YouTube best practice for us was very powerful to say, understand the screens people are viewing your content through, design it with that in mind, you'll get the optimum performance and the best return. Sounds obvious, but often by some agencies and clients even gets missed.
Yeah.
The digital TV screen is very different to the traditional TV screen. And so really thinking about how you build for the audience and how they're going to best engage with your creative and following those best practices really put the Boots media marketing teams and agency really at the front of the pack. That really shone through in terms of the campaign results and the business performance results that we saw.
Last question for you, Pete. I mean, it's clear from everything you've talked about, there's a really deep partnership with YouTube. How do you set up, I guess, your own team and your own culture, and then that wider cross-agency? How do you set them up to have success, again, with YouTube and with others as well?
I think it starts by having great people around you, and that is building a great leadership team, but also having real partnerships with media owners. It's not transactional. Yeah. Actually, there's a depth of shared goals and ownerships, joint business plans, which is the way we work with the Google and YouTube team to say we've got a bunch of things we want to achieve together. Let's be ambitious in terms of how we push and stretch each other is really important. And then agreeing those goals, agreeing that ambition, the North Star, as I'd call it. We want to get to here. Like I said a moment ago, we want to be known for innovation. We want to be on the front foot, not the back foot. We want to keep winning. What a great goal. Then we all chase after that together. Then it gives Jacqui and the team complete permission and legitimacy to challenge the heck out of me to go, you need to move faster. You're not being progressive or innovative enough. enough. That's brilliant. That's exactly what we want to achieve. And if I take an example, so for the summer campaign, we were a sponsor of the summer music, weren't we, on YouTube?
Yeah.
So whenever people were looking at clips on about festivals or tips around health for summer, we were there with specific content tailored to their needs. That came because the YouTube team went, look, it's another opportunity to connect with audiences, to get the right level of reach, right level of frequency. That the team helped us establish that. So that comes through great partnership of like, now we understand your goals and what you're doing, we can push you, but here's some new opportunities.
Yeah.
And that has really paid off for us, Jacqui, hasn't it, this summer?
Yeah, absolutely. And having key partners like yourselves that are open for experimentation. At the end of the day, being able to experiment, measure success, to then be able to really move forward in that path of testing, learning, and then importantly, scaling what works.
Yeah, it always strikes me in these conversations of all the incredible technology we've got, of the whole conversation that gets debated around AI. Sometimes it does come back to partnerships and
Wondering
actually
when that word was going to come up.
Yeah, and how you can do that. And I think that's such a wonderful example. Pete, Jacqui, thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Boots, Pete Markey and Google's Jacqui Owens there. And I love Pete's take on good old Boots versus wow Boots. It's such a bold move to be rethinking the need for pure brand campaigns. And Jackie's point about how campaign hero films just aren't about telly ads anymore is such a brilliant example of how brand campaigns are evolving and flexing for different platforms. I'll be back in a couple of days for episode 2 of this YouTube Festival Spotlight. And I'll be having a chat with the CMO of Domino's, Sarah Barron. And if you aren't already, a quick reminder that you can, of course, watch this podcast on YouTube. Thanks for joining us and see you next time.
IAB UK, building a better future for digital advertising for the benefit of everyone.